Hey guys, my name is Raven Phoenix and welcome to the Structure of Man. Learn to draw the human figure from your mind training course. Okay, so now we're going to begin this process of understanding surface anatomy. So in order to understand this, right, this device here that we've created, we basically have to know that we're free to do whatever we want. Right, so the first thing is that we're going to first create the eyes over here, right? Really understand what is it that we really did here. So this line here, basically whatever this line is, it just tells you really the fat area over here, right? But you can change it and make it whatever you want it to do. So if I had to draw out the eye, right? So here I would let's say, draw out the eye first and make, let's say, the eye go like this, and then make it go in here like this, right? Following that same concept that we talked about. And then from here, I'm going to make it come down like this over here, right? So this gives me the eye. And for the eye on the other side, here we're going to now determine, okay, well, really what we need to do is look at this and begin to understand, okay, we can create this eye over here going like this. And this is where you really have to do. Don't rely on the template. The template is there really just to help us see, right? But then we have to use our own common sense to really begin to see, okay, I understand what's really going on here, and begin to grasp these concepts, right? You would like draw it like this, going in that direction, right? You're gonna have to be very detailed with that, right? So once we get like the basic concept of the eye down, right, we can now begin to understand, okay, well, if this is here, I know that the fat area is over here, right? And I know that, let's say I'm going to get like a wrinkle or two over here, just like this, right? So this is where we're now going to shine light and begin to get concepts out of this, right? So let's say if the light was shining over here, we know that this part here is just going to be all dark. So we're going to first do this very slowly, right? And when we make this whole area dark, right, just know that in this area, right, because the light is shining from the top, we're really just going to get this to be more of that fattish area, right? So all of this area here is just going to be dark, right? So here I'm going to just basically conform like an idea here that this is what I want, right? We're going to use layers to understand this, right? So if this is dark, this area here is also going to be dark over here, right? So here's where we're now going to just use light to begin to understand surface anatomy in itself, right? Really, that is really the only way to understand it. So what goes on? So if I make this area kind of like darkish over here, right, I want to bring this out a little more over here and make it go a little bit like this, right? And this will start to bring out the human head in this way, right? So once we have this, now we can begin to see, okay, I got the eye over here, right? So here is where you can do like very fine detail work and add a few lines here, knowing that, okay, over here I'm really going to get at the bottom of the eye socket, right? So that the light is shining from top, really I'm going to get something that's going to look like a little bit like this, right? We can fluctuate with these ideas over here, right? We can change them around. Let's do everything kind of like slowly first. And over here, when we get over here, we know that, okay, I'm going to get really this area over here, but this area is going to be much more softer, right? So see how I let go of the template? So here I'm seeing how this is working in itself, right? So if I let go of the template now, but we really only had to modify a little bit here. It's going to go like this, and then here I'm going to kind of like do a little bit of shadow work and just say that, okay, well, what I want to do really is make this area over here kind of like more darkish, right? So here I'm going to do like the nose like this. Right, so the light is really like shining towards this area here, right? So you're gonna get like this area to be a little more darker. So just fill it in with this very fine layer first, right? Just hunt down like your darker shadows over here. Like this. Okay. So once we get this here, we can now begin to see, okay, we understand about the socket, right? The socket, really the eye bags are going to be kind of like over here, right? So now these are all optional items that you can add, right? Do this very lightly as first, just to begin to grasp that concept, right? It has nothing to do with this line is here, right? This line is there just to help you understand the plane, that the eye socket is going to be there, but it allows us to really just see some ideas here, right? So you can see how the muscles are really it's really the bone structure that's coming in the way, right? And the muscles are only going to play a role when they have to do something, like let's say like a facial expression. So then we're going to get like a little bit of this line over here, right? You're going to get this very soft area over here, like this. So over here in this area, we know that the cheekbone is here, right? This just helps us to see what the forms are. So for this area here, I'm really just going to let's say that I want the light is bouncing on this area, so I want to just experiment with this to see how can I bring this area out a little bit more, right? It's going to be bouncing on this over here, because you gotta think about the cheek bone over here, right? It's going to be kind of like this, going in this direction, and then you're going to get these lines over here, right? So it's going to be kind of like this here a little bit, right? And then over here we're going to get this fatter area over here. I'm going to put a few lines over here just to get the basic concept down, right? I'm not erasing the lines, just to show you the understanding of this, right? So here when we let's work on the nose a little bit, so we can start to understand this, right? So this nose here is really just going to be like this over here, and I'm going to start to get like shadows underneath it over here, right? And it's going to go like this. And so this area of the nose is really just going to be really dark, obviously, right? So here's where you not start to think about ideas in this 3D concept, right? So this area here, this line that we did, we can now erase some of this stuff over here. This area here really is that area we talked about, where you're going to get like a little bit like of this fluffy area over here because of that bone structure, right? So here I'm just feeling my way through it like this, right? I'm just going to do a little bit of more shading work over here, and then do some shadows like this coming this way, right? So we know that there's a muscle going here, but it's really not going to matter because it's really going to be the fat area, right? So here is showing you how disassociated the face is going to be from the muscles, right? The muscles are just too thin. It's really going to be the bone structure that's going to help it out. So now for the lip area, here we know that, okay, well, obviously this area here really is going to be dark here, right? If the light source is really kind of like shining from top, so this we can just make it kind of darkish over here, right? Just start to understand this as a concept. And then over here we know that this is under the lip, so over here I'm going to get like a surface structure over here. Let's say like it's going to go over here. Remember the muscle that's going around it, right? You're going to get that area, and then you're going to get, because of this lip here, it's going down, everything is stuck. Really, this is the area for the teeth, and then here in some people you'll get like this area here that's going to come out like this, right? It's going to be after this where we had put those two lines down. You know that this is going to be our dark area over here. Then over here for the chin, I'm just going to do it this way, right? Start to make things look more organic in this way, right? So you can see that when we do the face, it's really going to be the light source. It's going to bring out most of the details, right? But you can still show this stuff with outline over here. So we know that over here we're going to get like a little bit of light over there, right? We know that where the lips are. So I'm just showing you how we're starting to form a three-dimensional shape, right? From the light source and understanding the forms, right? All these lines that we did for the forms are helping us understand, okay, well, I'm going to do it this way, right? This is obviously here, but then it's going to like flatten out a little bit, right? So this area here that we did, we're going to make this line over here, right? To give it a much more of a realistic look. And this area here really is just going to be dark, right? So you can see we're getting pretty realistic, starting to get more and more of a realistic guy over here, like this. Right, so here I'm going to do, let's say, a little bit of more shadow work over here. So again, all this shading that I'm showing you is just conceptual shading, right? This is not realistic shading. That requires another thinking process. You really have to think like a computer for that area. Okay, so this here, right? So what I mean by that is like you have to think about, okay, where's the light source hitting, what's going on, and to do really a lot of realistic work in that area, right? So here we had talked about, okay, well, that there'll be like another form over here when we get into the neck, right? So this area here really is just going to be coming like this, so you'll get like a dark area over here. Let's say if the light source was shining, right? You're going to get into the areas of the neck which you really haven't done. So let's say that this is just going to be going in this way here. So it'll like go down here in the area for the neck. You'll get like the Adam's apple and stuff, and it'll go here, right? Just like this, right? So over here is just going to be more softer, right? It's not going to be just this one line here, right? So once we have this part done, we can now start to look at some of these areas over here. Say that, okay, well, what we want to do is now just slowly start to add some, right? This over here is going to go in a little bit, right? Because we know that there's a dent over here because of the muscles that we had put over here, right? So you're going to get some areas over here like this, right? Then over here you can start to now shade some of this bigger stuff in and just feel your way through it. Okay, well, let me think about this. I know that really this area here is going to be kind of like darkish over here like this, and I'm going to get, right, your that muscle structure is going to be here, and this is really just going to come out because of the bone structure. Right, so we're just doing very simple shading here just to begin to understand some of these concepts, right? How to take this is why the forms are here, because we understand the muscles as to what's going on, right? So over here, depending on the light, the way it is, right, all these forms are going to play a role that we put, right? If the light was kind of shining from the back, you would get more shadow work. But this gives you the ability to quickly put down the human head and start to investigate and start to render stuff, right? So here we're just going to do this over here, right? So for the ear, we're just going to do the ear coming like this in here in this way, and then it will just go down like this, and you'll get like the earlobe over there, right? So here we can do like even this concept of making it one, right? We don't have to do it two all the time. And this here is just going to come out this way over here, and then I'm going to get that really from here, that opening going in this way over here, right? So here I'm just going to think a little bit about the shadows. I want the shadows to work. Right, you'll begin to see how this is starting to change our understanding of the human head, right? How surface anatomy is so dynamic, right? So it's really just understanding, right? It's going to be really the main areas to get are going to be this area here, the where these eye bags are, and this, right? But this is the male figure, right? So over here we can just basically do anything, right? Just start then doing like these more of these other layers, starting to bring out, make this a little more realistic, right? So there are like 2 layers here on the nose, and then do a second layer which like comes in and does more subtle shadow work, right? So here we can make this a little more darker on the other end, as to bring this part out like this. So but you'll see how where we came from the first idea of the toolkit to being able to draw out the head, right? So basically the eyebrows, as we had stated, are going to be just like this, right? So if you want to add them, you can like start to add them over here, right? It will be like something like, you can come up with your own eyebrows over here, and just starting to understand, okay, well, what do I really want them to look like, right? So here, let's do that. Maybe that this is going to be the eyebrow over here. And then over here, we'll do the other one going in this way over here. I'm just showing you conceptually what you can do, right? So the hairline really is going to be where this line is, right? Everyone is going to have a different hairline. So if you wanted to, you can now just start to think about, okay, I know that here are going to be the sideburns, right? We know that the sideburns are going to be here. Over here, we know that really technically you get like this area here, right? On some people, you'll get this area here, and then you'll get like the hair to go in this direction, right? So the hairline is always going to be different from each person, but it's going to be basically around here. And if you want to understand how to do hair, it's really you're going to have to keep up with different type of hairstyles people have, right? So let's say that this guy is really just going to curve his hair all the way in the back, right? So here I'm just going to I'm going to do each strand here, right? Just to show you the how far really we've come in figure drawing, right? So here I'm just going to give this guy really just put all his hair, right? So even here, his body, right? So you would have to think about the shape of the hair, right? It's gonna be affected by the light. Okay, so here, just put all this hair back. I give it a little bit of a body. Right, I'm just going above this line a little bit. Right, so he's going to have his hair coming just all the way back. Right, so usually what happens, when you start to study hair, right, you'll start to find out that, okay, well, over here, really it goes more towards this way, right? Really depends on the type of hairstyle that you're doing. We're just going to put everything in the back here anyways. Right, so this hair here is going to come just like this over here. And over here for the sideburns, giving like these Elvis type sideburns here. Right, so once you get that, then you can start to put like much more darker hair, right? Create some body in there, create some shadows like this over here, right? Right, and it's just going to go in the back over here, right? So if his neck is going to be, let's say, around here, this is where the guy's neck is going to be, right? So what will happen is obviously his hair is going to be coming down this way, right? You won't really see much, but it doesn't really go down that much. Right, so here on this end, we can actually darken this up a little bit more, since to really take into account the light source. Okay, so I'll see you in the next lesson. Thanks.